So just briefly, because I know we talked about this last week, social media sites have several characteristics that they share. They know what your habits are. When I first got my car and I was trying the Sirius XM thing, I went on this road trip and I got home and my husband got an advertisement from an insurance company that showed the map of where I had gone on the road trip. And I disabled location on all of my devices at that point. They combine that and they create an algorithm. And briefly, we talked about algorithms yet last time, but I just want to remind people that algorithms are created by humans, and the ads are going to load first. They're not objective. And remind you also that Amy Quinn, who is the Brooks librarian at Central, created this wonderful resource about understanding algorithms that was that's attached to last week's episode. And so when we're reliant on a media ecosystem like this that's full of pollution, we have to take responsibility for what we read, share, and post. And I think that is one of the most important pieces of information that I think we can emphasize to other people. And there are some ways of doing that that we can follow, which is, I think one of them is to really follow people in pages that have different perspectives. And I do that, and it makes a big difference. Turn off the best or top posts. I do that on Facebook. I have location turned off on everything. I don't look at social media after, say, 8:30 and 9 o'clock at night, because you get you sucked in and you talk to actual humans, which of course we're doing here today. And thank you for coming, because that's really great. And Anne is leaving, and Anne, there's a few more slides, but you can see them online. And have a great Earth Day. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Okay, take care. And so we have talked about a number of ways of being good social media custodians, and lateral reading. Going forward, that was a concept that probably all of us used, but now we have a title for it. Is that something that people are going to increase in terms? Yeah, and lateral reading works even if you're reading a paper newspaper or watching something on television. It is information coming at you and you're going, I'm getting this information, but unless you are interacting with it, you may accept it. Challenging the source, challenging your own assumptions, which is something that I am doing a lot lately. Be suspicious of being information that confirms your worldviews, and share only confirmed information. So are these things that are going to come out of this? That's good. Well, one thing, and it depends on if people want to spend the time doing this. I've watched a lot of the videos in the Calling Bullshit class that they have online on YouTube, and I do highly recommend it, because it does a much deeper dive than this does. But in their last episode, they talk about 4 rules. So if we are being responsible about when we're posting, part of the other way of being responsible is if you see somebody, as Judy was talking about, if you see somebody who is posting something that isn't true or isn't responsible, how do you refute that? And unsurprisingly to me, but it was a surprise to some people, one of the first things that they talk about, and John also talked about this in his series, was to have empathy. We all make mistakes, but there's 4 rules. And so there's a 7-minute video, which if you'd like to watch it, we can load it. We're certainly going to give you the link, of talking about refuting bullshit that goes through these steps. And it's up to the group here. If you guys are up for another 7-minute video, that's great. Otherwise, we'll just give you the link.
All right, so welcome to our last class already, and thanks to those of you who were able to make it despite impending finals week and papers and all of that. So what we want to talk about today, we've been talking all quarter about how to spot bullshit. Today we want to think about, how do you refute bullshit? How do you do it? So it's a complicated process. You have to think about who's the audience. You have to think about how much time you're willing to invest. You have to think about the medium in which you're trying to refute this bullshit. And we can't really cover all of that, sort of grid of possibilities in excruciating detail today, but there are some general rules that I think are really, really important. And one of the most important rules when you're calling bullshit on anything is to please be correct. Be correct. Have all the information you need. That means if you're calling bullshit on a paper, read the paper. If you're calling it on an article, don't just read the headline, read the article. It's amazing how seldom people do this when saying stuff is nonsense. If you are asserting things, make sure you're right about them. Make sure you actually understand what you're talking about before you publicly call bullshit on something. And double check your facts, number two, right? You want to make sure that, when Jevin and I were putting together this case study where we were talking about the food stamp fraud, we needed to know various facts, including the fraction of people in the United States who are receiving food stamps. And you don't want to just take the first number you find on the internet. Once you step out and make yourself sort of publicly visible by calling bullshit on something, you've got to be right. And so double check your facts. Make sure you're getting that information from reliable sources, and ideally from at least two reliable sources that aren't just copied from one another, right? So make sure your numbers are right and your claims are right. And then, you'll miss things. We all do. So run it by a friend or colleague before you go public with the criticism. That helps a lot, and this is something Jevin and I have done for one another for many years. Second of all, when you're calling bullshit, you don't have to be a jerk about it, right? We've talked about this some already. Be charitable. So first of all, consider the possibility that you're the one who's confused. When I read something and I think, boy, somebody's an idiot, I'm usually right, but the somebody's usually me because I don't understand what's being said the first time through. Don't call bullshit until you're sure that that somebody is not you. Second of all, in terms of being charitable, don't impute malice when stupidity is sufficient. There are a lot of things that corporations do or news media do or whatever that you may say, oh, wow, this is malicious. They're trying to trick me. They're trying to force this agenda on me. A reasonable fraction of that is just a mistake. It's just somebody's done or said something stupid. It's not that they're actually trying to do this bad thing to you. And as far as stupidity is concerned, once you've decided you're going to abandon malice for stupidity, well, let's question the stupidity. Don't impute stupidity when a perfectly understandable error is sufficient. We all make mistakes, right? And and we'll talk about that in a second. So a lot of times when someone writes something that's wrong, they may not even be an idiot. They may be a perfectly intelligent person that's written something wrong. And so, again, if you're sort of attacking the claims and not the person, as we talked to in the first lecture, you're going to avoid many of the lapses that are discussed here. What happens when you fail at this? What happens when you fail at these first two rules? Well, the National Review found out this morning. So the National Review put out this story today, trying to make fun of an article in an academic publication in the Minnesota Review, and with this sort of ridiculous and probably offensive photograph. And they say, well, look at this academic journal. The humanities are so busted. Quantum physics, this journal article says, is oppressive to marginalized people. So that's what they said. And I thought, well, okay, might as well look at that. And so I looked at it. Here's the original article, again, keeping with our theme of going back to the article. And the first line of the abstract says exactly the opposite of what the National Review claims. They say how an understanding of quantum physics can ally with feminist anti-oppression practices long in use. So whatever you think of this kind of work, it's certainly not fair to say that they're claiming quantum physics is oppressive to marginalized people, because the entire article has exactly the opposite point. In fact, all the quotes that they use in the National Review article to support this also are saying the opposite thing. So,
in fact, I was just going to interrupt, Carl. In fact, the part that they talk about is, at least the oppressive part, is classical physics.
Right. So, and again, I'm not well enough educated in that area to be able to say that is or isn't bullshit. But what I do know is getting the article exactly backwards is certainly an embarrassing mistake. So here at Calling Bullshit, we did what we do, and so we tweeted about it. The National Review Online calls bullshit, except that the article, heck, even the first sentence of the abstract says exactly the opposite of what they claim. And then we link to the tweet from the author who was promoting her own article. Within an hour, it was deleted. The National Review was also tweeting about their great article that they'd put on. We also pointed that out. Within the morning, that was gone as well. So don't put yourself in the position of being that jerk who hasn't even bothered to read or understand the article that you think you're calling bullshit on. It just makes you look stupid. Rule number 3, be clear. Calling bullshit and refuting an argument, especially an argument that people hold as sort of a core belief, is very, very hard. You want to put in at least as much effort into designing and shaping your argument and crafting your argument and making it simple but clear and sufficient and persuasive as you do into having figured out that it was bullshit in the first place. You don't want to just read it and you're sort of 2/3 of the way through and you're sure it's bullshit and then you just shout, that's bullshit, and dump a deluge of facts or unformed thoughts on somebody because it simply isn't effective. And 4, if you're calling bullshit or arguing about things or writing scientific papers or anything else, you're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. Jevin has made a lot of mistakes. And the thing to do when that happens is own your mistakes. Don't double down on your stupidity. I realize that that's like the first rule of arguing on the internet, is that you're supposed to double down on your stupidity. Don't do it. It blows your credibility. It wastes everybody's time. It's not moving us toward a world where information is more reliable that we're all looking for, right?